Okay, so today we're going to talk about writing the essay for the RICA exam. This would be the case study essay. And in our class, that's different than the case study project, which is a whole project where you're collecting documents on a particular child in your fieldwork class. In this case, we're just looking at writing the essay part of the case study for the RICA. So this is the longest essay. It would be 300 to 600 words, and they give you different documents related to a child. For this study guide, if you go to the study guide folder in our assignments folder, we have documents about this boy, Arnie, and I've downloaded that here. So they're all linked together here, different information about this child's literacy. So first, let's just take a look at what does RICA want you to do. Here's what they say. Examine the information provided and discuss 3 areas of strengths and or needs that you see in the child's literacy. Then they want you to describe 2 instructional strategies or activities you would use to address this child's strengths or needs, and explain how these strategies would be effective in supporting literacy development. So when you're writing the essay, I've included some notes here that you need to be attentive to. So in the first one, we want to make sure that you have identified 3 different issues. So we're saying that should be 3 different paragraphs, 1 per issue. And for each issue, and remember you could talk about strengths or needs, we usually recommend that you identify 2 needs and a strength, and most of the time that works. Occasionally the RICA has given you a child that is really, really strong, almost like a gifted kid, so it's really hard to find needs. You would just identify, here are strengths and here's what I would do to support those or move them forward. But usually they give you kids that have particular, obvious reading needs. So you want to identify a need, and then you want to identify where you found the information, which documents proved that there was a need. And it's helpful if you can find proof from 2 different documents, because one of the things you want to be careful of is not seeing one error in one place and deciding, okay, this kid has a need there, but you want to find some conclusive proof that this is a pattern that you're seeing in the child's reading. Then you want to identify 2 strategies that you would do to support that child. Now, they really are careful about this. Don't give them a laundry list or grocery list of all the things you know to do for that particular issue. Now, because we are phonics and decoding, a lot of times you might come up with some kind of strategy, like let's say sorting, that you can have the child do. But then you want to make sure that the child can identify that particular issue. Let's say it's digraphs. If they're having a problem with digraphs, you might have them sort, say, C words from CH words, and then you want to have them mask it so you can give them back the text that they were reading originally and see if they can read it accurately. So really that's only one strategy that you're doing to teach them, but you can assess whether or not they got it by having them actually read it in context. So I'm good with that, but otherwise you don't want to throw out 5 or 6 different strategies. So this should be 2 different paragraphs explaining how the strategies work, and what you'll do to teach them and what the child will be doing to practice. And then finally, and maybe even most importantly, how will these be effective in supporting literacy development? So we've talked about this before. You want to make sure that for each strategy, you would say this would be effective because blah, 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 blah. The child's more accurate in decoding. That will lead to increased fluency and comprehension. So if let's say you pick one strategy that supports 2 of the reading issues, because they're only asking you for 2 strategies, you could say this would be effective both for his fluency and his decoding, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what we're looking for is about 300 to 600 words, about 1.5 pages long, but really it's the word count that matters because they do a word count. So I'm going to give you a moment. Actually, just go ahead and pause this video and walk through the documents here and just read what it says about Arnie. Let me just talk about this page a little bit. When you're looking at standardized tests, and you'll read about this in Gunning, the raw scores won't really tell us anything. Those are just scores. We don't know, he got 15 on vocabulary, but we don't know out of how many total questions, or is that a really good score or not. So that doesn't help us much. The Stay9 is a score that will give us sort of long-term, where we compare him over years, Does he stay at about the same state line year after year of vocabulary? Does he grow up or does he move up? But again, that doesn't really tell us much. Same with the NCE, not too significant. Percentile rank tells us something, and grade equivalent tells us something. So percentile means out of a norm group, so this is a norm reference test, meaning they gave it to a group of kids, at the same age kids from all different parts of the country and all different socioeconomic levels, etc. And you get a percentile ranking. So 50th percentile means you did better than 50% of the kids that took the same test, and 50% of the kids did better than you. 50th percentile is average, it's right in the middle, it's grade level. The fact that he's 16th percentile means that he only did better than 16% of the kids that took the exam. 84% of the kids did better than him. So that's very, very low. It's below grade level. It's problematic. 28th percentile is the same, below grade level. 22nd percentile. So vocabulary, if you can't read this, is 16%. Comprehension is 28th percentile. And the total is 22 percentile. So he's obviously reading below grade level. And if we weren't sure, we have a grade equivalent here. This is 1.5 grade level, so first grade, half the year basically, 0.5 months into first grade, and here he is at the beginning of September of the second grade year. So he's about half a year behind in vocabulary, about half a year behind in comprehension, and overall reading behind. So based on his this Gates McGinnity, which is a norm referenced exam, so they're comparing him to his age group, he is below grade level. I'll let you read through his responses. This was, he wrote the answers and somebody recorded them based on his interest inventory. And then he was given a running record. And if you've watched the running record video, you'll be able to understand this. So he read Tim instead of time. He read whiffs instead of wives. He read cleaning instead of cooking. So all this shows here in this column, those records as errors, and it gives you a little code. And on RICA they will, I don't think they'll expect that you know the different symbols for running records, so it will tell you, like this means he left the word out, this little dash above the word. This means the teacher told him the answer because he didn't get it. And I think the rest is self-explanatory. So that's his running record, and you can look at these kinds of errors and determine what does that tell us about his decoding. Then we have a writing sample here, a response to a story of Teeny Tiny, and you can look at some of the spelling errors and grammatical errors and things that he made, identify what are some of the issues there. So based on that information, you're going to determine two needs, identify 3 reading issues, 2 strategies for supporting him, and explaining how those strategies would be effective. So I just want to point out, I've also posted this case study chart, which I have here somewhere, here it is, that I recommend you complete as a way to sort of take notes about the case study. So how this works is I just give you a place to identify your 3D reading issues, and you don't, obviously this is just a chart, so it's for bullets, it's for note-taking. You don't have to turn this in, but you can if you'd like to. But identify your 3 issues, the evidence, how do you know that's an issue, 2 strategies, however you're going to group them, that will support this child in addressing your issues, and how will they be effective. So if you can either print this out and handwrite it, or type up your responses. I think this is a good way to take notes or sort of do an outline for your essay before actually writing it. Not required, but it's a really good way to make sure that you've covered all your bases. So that should give you, in a nutshell, about writing the case study essay.